Morning. Morning. Today is Saturday, January 18th, and we are reading Genesis 48, 49, and 50.
And 50, yes. Are you ready? You have your page to color? And how are you? You ready? Oh, you have your coloring page? No, your crayon. Catherine, you ready?
Me too.
Yes? Oh, all right.
Jacob blesses Joseph's sons. Not long afterward, Joseph received the news that his father's health was failing, so he took his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, along with him. When Jacob heard that they had come to see him, Israel rallied his strength and sat up in bed. Jacob said to Joseph, "The God who is more than enough appeared to me at Bethel in the land of Canaan, where he blessed me. He said to me, I will make you fruitful and multiply your descendants until I make you a company of nations. And I will give this land to your descendants for an everlasting possession. Furthermore, I will adopt as my very own your two sons who were born in the land of Egypt before I came here. Yes, I claim Ephraim and Manasseh as mine, no less than my two eldest, Reuben and Simeon. As far as any children born after them, they will be considered yours. They will receive their portions of their inheritance in the same territory as their brothers. For when I was returning from Padam Aram, my beloved Rachel died, to my sorrow, in the land of Canaan, while we were still on our way, not far from Ephrath. So I buried her there beside the road to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. When Israel noticed Joseph's two sons, he says, "Who are these?" "They are the sons that God has graciously given me here," Joseph said to his father. "Please bring them closer," he said, "so that I may bless them." Now Israel could barely see, for his eyes were failing because of old age. So Joseph brought his sons closer to him, and Joseph's father, their grandfather, hugged and kissed them. Tearfully, Israel said to Joseph, "I never thought I'd see your face again, and now God has let me see my grandchildren as well." Jacob blesses his grandchildren. Joseph then removed them from his father's knees and bowed low in respect before his father with his face to the ground. And Joseph took his sons and had them stand facing their grandfather Israel. Ephraim at Israel's left hand and Manasseh at Israel's right hand. But Israel crossed his arms and stretched out his right hand on the head of the younger son, Ephraim, and his left hand on the head of the firstborn son, Manasseh. He spoke this blessing over them. "May the God of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, who lived devoted to him, the God who has seen my shepherd from my birth until this day, the angel who has delivered me from all harm, may he bless these boys. May their lives echo my name and the names of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac. May they multiply into teeming multitudes throughout the earth." When Joseph saw his father place his right hand on Ephraim's head, he was not happy, so he tried to move his father's hand from Ephraim to Manasseh's head. "Not that way," Joseph said to his father. "Here, father, put your right hand on the firstborn's head." But his father refused and said, "I know, my son, I know. Manasseh's descendants will also multiply and become a great people. His younger brother will become even greater than he, and his tribe will one day give rise to many nations." So Jacob blessed them that day, saying, "Israel will use your names when they pronounce blessings. They will say, 'May God make you like Ephraim and like Manasseh.'" So the crossing of his arms during Jacob's blessing put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. Then Israel said to Joseph, "Son, I will die soon, but God's presence will go with you, and one day he will take you to the land of your ancestors. I give you one mountain slope more than your brothers, the mountain slope of Shechem, the fertile region I took from the Amorites with my own sword and my own bow."
Chapter 49. Jacob's last words. Jacob called all his sons together and gathered them around his bedside. He said to them, "Let me prophesy to you about your future destinies. Come together and listen to me, O sons of Jacob. Listen to your father Israel. Reuben, my firstborn, You are my strength, and the firstfruits of my manhood. You are preeminent in pride and surpassing others in power. Preeminent in pride and surpassing others in power. You are unstable, as turbulent as floodwaters. You will no longer excel, for you have slept with my concubine and defiled yourself in your father's bed. Simeon and Levi, you are two of a kind and brothers in crime. For your swords have committed violent acts. O my soul, let me not join in their secret plans. O my heart, never let me be counted in their assembly. For they killed men in fits of rage, bless you, and for pleasure. They maimed an ox. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath so relentless. I will divide your descendants throughout Jacob's territory and scatter them throughout Israel. O Judah, your brothers will praise you. You will conquer your foes in battle, and your father's sons will bow down before you. Judah, you are like a young lion who has devoured its prey, my son, and departed. Like a lion, he crouches and lies down, and like a lioness who dares to awaken him. The scepter of rulership will not be taken from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from his descendants, until the Shiloh comes and takes what is due him, for the obedience of nations belongs to him. He will tether his donkey to the vine, and his purebred colt to the choicest branch. He will wash his garments in wine, and his robe in the blood of grapes. His eyes are more exhilarating than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. Zebulun will settle among the seashore and become a safe harbor for ships, and his borders will extend to Sidon. Issachar is a strong donkey, lying down between its saddlebags. When he sees that his resting place is good and his portion is so pleasant, then he will bend his shoulders to the burden and labor for his master. Dan will provide justice for his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan will be a snake waiting by the roadside, like a snake in the grass. He bites the horse's heels, making its riders fall backward. I wait in hope for your salvation, O Yahweh. Gad will be raided by raiders, but he will raid at the heels and overcome them at last. Asher's food will be rich, and he will provide delicacies fit for a king. Naphtali is a doe set free, who bestows beauty on his offspring. Joseph is a fruitful vine growing by a spring, whose branches run over a wall. Persecutors fiercely attacked him. They pursued him with their bow and arrows, but Joseph's bow remained steady, because the power of the mighty one of Jacob strengthened him. By the name of the loving shepherd, the rock of Israel. Bless you. The God of your father will help and protect you. The God who is more than enough will bless you. He will bless you with the blessing of heaven, blessings of the deep that lie beneath, and blessings of the breast and womb. The blessings of your father will be greater than the blessings of the eternal mountains, surpassing the blessings of my ancestors. May Joseph's blessings crown his head and rest on the brow of the one set apart, prince among his brothers. Benjamin is a ferocious wolf. In the morning he devours his prey. In the evening he divides the spoil. All of these men became the 12 tribes of Israel. These were prophetic words their father spoke to them when he blessed them, blessing each son with a parting word appropriate to him. the death of Jacob. Afterward, Jacob sat on the side of his bed and instructed his sons with these words: I am about to join my people in death. Bury me with my ancestors in the cave of the field of Ephron the Hittite. The cave in the field of Machpelah, near Mamre, in the land of Canaan. My grandfather Abraham purchased that field as a burial site from Ephron the Hittite. My grandfather Abraham and my grandmother Sarah are buried there. My father Isaac and my mother Rebekah were buried there also. And it is the place I buried my wife Leah. So bury me there, in that cave, in the field that was purchased from the Hittites. Then when Jacob finished his final words of instruction to his sons, he lifted his feet onto the bed, breathed his last, and was gathered to his people.
Jacob's funeral. Joseph flung himself over Jacob, kissing him and weeping, and his tears fell on his father's face. When he was able to compose himself, he ordered the royal physicians to embalm his father. So they began the required 40-day process. The Egyptians mourned for Israel for 70 days. And when the weeping period was over, Joseph approached Pharaoh's officials and said to them, Please, may I ask a personal favor? Bring my appeal before Pharaoh and tell him, my dying father made me promise that I would bury him in the land of Canaan, in the tomb he had hewn with his own hands. Please give me permission to go and bury my father. Then I will return. Pharaoh said to Joseph, Go to Canaan, bury your father, and keep your promise to him. So Joseph went to Canaan to bury his father, and all the officials of Pharaoh, the elite members of his court, and all of Egypt's dignitaries accompanied him. All of Joseph's household and all his brothers and their father's household went too.
Only the children and livestock remained behind in Goshen. Many chariots and horsemen, a huge entourage, accompanied Joseph to Canaan in the grand procession. When they arrived at the threshing floor of Atad, on the other side of the Jordan, they mourned loudly with bitter sorrow for a long time. And Joseph spent 7 days there in ceremonial mourning for his father. When the people of Canaan saw the depth of mourning at the threshing floor of Atad, they said, This is a solemn occasion of grief for the Egyptians, and named the place near the Jordan, the mourning of the Egyptians. So Jacob's sons did as they were instructed and carried his body to the land of Canaan. They buried him there in the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre, where Abraham had purchased a burial place from Ephron the Hittite. After burying his father, Joseph returned to Egypt with his brothers and all who had gone with him to bury his father. Joseph comforts his brothers. When the brothers realized they were now without their father, they said, What if Joseph still bears a grudge against us and decides to pay us back for all the trouble we brought to him? So they sent a message to Joseph. Before he died, Your father left us this instruction. Tell Joseph that I beg him to completely forgive the sin of his brothers who treated him so harshly. Now please forgive us, servants of the God of your father, of the horrible wrong we did to you. Joseph cried and wept as they read this message to him. Then his brothers came and threw themselves down before Joseph's feet, saying, We are here as your slaves. But Joseph dried his tears and said, Don't be afraid. How could I ever take the place of God? Even though you intended to hurt me, God intended it for good. It was his plan all along, to ensure the survival of many people. So don't worry, I myself will provide for you all that you need, both for you and your little ones. Then, with more kind, reassuring words, Joseph comforted his brothers. Joseph dies in Egypt. Joseph lived in Egypt along with his father's family and lived to be 110 years old. He lived to see the third generation of Ephraim's children. Joseph also lived to see the children of Machir, son of Manasseh. And Joseph gave Machir's children inheritance rights. Then Joseph declared to his brothers, I will die one day, but God will certainly come to you and fulfill his promises to bring you and your descendants from the land and lead you to the land he promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So Joseph had his brothers, the sons of Israel, make a solemn oath, saying, when God comes to you, you will carry my bones up from Egypt. Joseph died at the age of 110. He was embalmed and placed in a coffin in Egypt. And that's Genesis.
Bye. Have a great day.